The New York Jets signed veteran free agent Trevor Siemian to their practice squad. The team announced Tuesday. The move comes 2 days after another poor performance by Zach Wilson, who nevertheless received a vote of confidence from coach Robert Saleh. ESPN Jets reporter Rich Cimini had interesting comments about how the team currently views their head coach.
The thing is, he's coming off as a Zach apologist, and that doesn't play well in the locker room. The defense, in particular, is not happy. This defense knows that if any other player were performing his job the way Wilson is performing his, that player would be benched. Trust me, there's tension in that locker room.
And we know he's dialed in. Meanwhile, former 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick wrote a letter to Jets general manager Joe Douglas that was dated September 21st, asking that the team consider signing him to the practice squad. According to rapper J. Cole, the letter was shared on Cole's Instagram account on Tuesday. In part, it read, "Worst case scenario, you see what I have to offer and you're not impressed. Best case scenario, you realize you have a real weapon at your disposal in the event you ever need to use it." Stephen A., what's your reaction?
Sadness. Because it ain't going to happen. See, we have to stop all of this noise and we have to address it with the realness that it deserves. Colin Kaepernick, I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to see him back in the National Football League. I believe he deserves an opportunity to be back in the National Football League. I believe that he was blackballed. I believe he was blackballed unfairly. I think it's a damn disgrace and a crime that he has been kept out of the National Football League this long. But where I've taken heat, and I will always take heat for this, because I will never, ever, ever change my position on this, is that in the end, not 2016 to 2019, but in the end, as of November 2019, when he had that tryout that the NFL organized and he elected not to show up and instead had that at a high school an hour and 20 minutes away, Swagoo, he's done. And I stand by that. And to this day, I have not been proven wrong. Now, Molly, y'all could put up the timeline of the events that involved Colin Kaepernick from the time of 2016 to now. Sits during the national anthem to protest racial inequality, which we all applaud him for. Begins kneeling to the protest, which was perfectly within his right. Kneeling during the national anthem. He is an American citizen. He exercised his constitutional right, not to mention the fact that he was in violation of no NFL bylaws whatsoever. He should have never been punished for it at all. Unsigned, he files grievance against the National Football League. He's alleging collusion. They settled 2 years later, nearly 2 years later, in February of 2019. All of that totally in Colin Kaepernick's favor. Here's where things went south for good, as far as I'm concerned. November 12th, 2019, NFL arranges the workout for him at the Falcons facility. He moves it to a high school and lets them know literally about a couple of hours earlier. From that moment forward, it was over. Now, let me break this down to y'all. Swagoo, Mad Dog Russo, in November of 2019, when Colin Kaepernick refused to show up, now, mind you, let's keep this in mind. Most people don't sue their former employer and then turn around and try to go back to work for them. That doesn't happen. But Roger Goodell, NFL league offers, in concert with Jay-Z and others, essentially assembled this, organized it because the individual teams were scared that if they didn't pick him, they would get accused of racism or whatever it was that they were fearful of. Those were the things that I heard. So they didn't want to take on the individual responsibility as a team, which was why the league, for the first time in league history, organized the workout. All right? Tried to get him to sign a waiver. He said it's not the typical waiver a player signs. They said, of course it isn't, because usually a team does that. But it's the first time in league history the league is organizing it. And we have to protect ourselves from you because you just sued us, okay? But having said all of that, we go to 2019. Here's what I have a list for you, Swagoo. These are backup quarterbacks that played at one point or another the same season that Colin Kaepernick was trying to come back in November 2019 when he didn't show up for the workout. Brandon Allen, 3 starts for Denver. Jeff Driscoll, 3 starts for Detroit. Matt Moore, 2 starts for Kansas City. Chase Daniels, 1 start for Chicago. Brian Hoyer, 1 start for Indianapolis. Sean Mannion, 1 start for Minnesota. Colt McCoy, 1 start for Washington. A.J. McCarron, 1 start for Houston. Colin Kaepernick, a guy that took the team to the Super Bowl in the San Francisco 49ers. You trying to tell me Colin Kaepernick couldn't play? Of course he could play. Of course he could have been on a roster. All he had to do was show up. And I personally was told at that time, if the brother showed up to the workout because of public pressure being brought down upon the league and the fact that we were all watching, he would have had to throw the football in the stands to not have a job in 2 weeks. That was a quote that I received, doggy. He would have had to throw it into the stands to not receive a job. But he didn't show up. And now we fast forward to 2023. January 1st will mark 7 years that Colin Kaepernick hasn't been in the league. And in the year 2023, on opening day, just a few weeks ago, the NFL started 14 black quarterbacks. 7 of the top 11 paid quarterbacks in the National Football League are black. Those owners are going to use that as an excuse to point to, ain't about racism. We don't want to hear that. It's about the attention that you brought to our brand that we believe compromises the bottom line. And no matter how wrong they may be, the public evidently sides with them because the ratings have gone where, fellas? The money has gone where, fellas? Their coffers, has it dwindled? Has it diminished? Has it shrunk? No. Just like I told y'all in November of 2019, I said when he didn't show up for that workout, it's over. And that's where we are today. I hope I'm wrong. Nothing would make me happier if I turned on the TV, if I had to come on TV tomorrow rather, and they said everything's changed. But I doubt it.
Yeah. Just in fairness of Colin, he's just asking to lead the practice squad.
Yeah, I got an easy answer. The Jet fans are so desperate right now, they like Al Woodall back. Why not? He got nothing to lose. Why not? I mean, he's a great athlete. He, as you said, he played in the Super Bowl.
The defense would get a shot at a versatile quarterback.
Would there be a bit of a distraction element? You know, media and everything else? All right, but we've killed Zach Wilson forever. Mm-hmm. Nobody believes in Simeon. We got Joe Willie up there telling everybody to get rid of him. It's disgusting. You got Kaepernick who wants to play. You know what? The Jet fan is so desperate, they'd have me play. Yeah, try somebody else. So why not? I don't know. What put him on a practice squad. You got nothing to lose. Yeah. So I would go in that angle.
Man, dog, you got a point. And Stephen A., you make a great point. And obviously, all the elements of this doesn't agree. But it's 2 factors that always come into this conversation when Colin Kaepernick comes up. There's the emotional side of it, and there's the reality side. And as black men and black people, we get heat as analysts when we talk about the reality side of it, what Stephen A. is talking about. Like, when it came to the workout, there were elements of the workout that the NFL put together that it was a show for the NFL. It was a time when a lot of social injustice was going on and people were talking about it. And that opportunity for Colin Kaepernick arose, and he didn't feel like that was a legit opportunity. Now, whether he felt like that or not, he decided to do something different. And I think Stephen A. is dealing in the reality that probably cost him an opportunity to play. But the emotional side of it is, why can't we agree on terms that are agreeable for both sides and both parties if we legitimately trying to make this relationship work? And then the letter comes that we get to the New York Jets. I'll say this. First of all, the letter is to the wrong person, right? The letter got to go to Woody Johnson because Joe Douglas can't make that decision. Just like we talking about Robert Saleh can't speak on behalf. Like that is Woody Johnson's call. I don't know if that call is gonna get made because as much as we always throw this overall arching NFL, it's the owners. The owners decide if Colin Kaepernick comes back and play football or not. It ain't GMs, it ain't coaches, it ain't team personnel. And I think, and Stephen A. always alludes to this because he knows in our community, we get killed when we say Colin Kaepernick ain't going to get a job again because they think from the emotional standpoint that we saying he shouldn't or he shouldn't be able to get in the league. The reality is we want Colin Kaepernick. We've said it on this show. We've said it on other shows. People have said he deserves an opportunity to play in the NFL. If this was about football, Colin Kaepernick would be starting for somebody. I ain't even talking about a backup. If it was about the talent and the ability to play the position at a very high level, he would be starting for a team. With all of the bad quarterback that we've seen from starters in the past 7 years, Colin Kaepernick should have been a quarterback a long time ago in the NFL. But here's the reality, and this is the reality that I'm because I get real emotional about this because we get killed. Black analysts and black guys that talk about this situation,
I'm going to get
if
killed
it's not
today.
agreeable with our community, we get killed by it. At the same time, we are talking to people in the NFL that are telling us things that don't go along with the emotional feeling that we want to have from Colin Kaepernick and where we think he should be. Let me say this again. Colin Kaepernick should be in the NFL. His talent and his ability lends itself to being a quarterback in the National Football League. 32 owners don't want Colin Kaepernick in the NFL. That's what it boils down to, because there is no other thing you can point to. Brian Flores had a lawsuit against an owner in the NFL and the organization, and he coaching right now as the defense coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. The 32 owners. So the energy that we get for saying what is in reality happening should be directed towards the guys that are actually in a position to make that decision. Yes, Colin Kaepernick should be back in the league.
Let me piggyback off of that, Marcus. I would remind everybody that it's nice to see Brian Flores back in the league. The biggest reason he's back in the league is because Mike Tomlin, a brother, hired him. Because there were question marks as to whether or not anybody else would, because of his defiant positions against the National Football League, and in particular, the owner for the Miami Dolphins. Okay, people talk about collusion. You don't have to collude to make certain decisions. If you are a white billionaire, chances are you don't particularly care about the quote unquote black plight. And as a result of that, it's widely and universally understood amongst your cadre of individuals that there's certain things that we don't want to deal with. We also know that there are people who have been pushed out of this league who still had skills for lesser reasons. Colin Kaepernick was courageous. He took a stance for us, black and brown people everywhere, okay? He took that position, and I applaud him for it. I'm thankful to him for it. There are players who happen to be black that got pushed out of the league because they were considered cancerous to the locker room. Nobody wanted them anymore, but they could still ball. But because they were considered cancerous to the locker room, that was an excuse. So imagine if an owner who, if you remember Swagoo and Doggy, years ago they talked about how the owners made about $246 million a piece off of the television rights deal. But they had calculated that Colin Kaepernick might have cost them about 10 to 15 extra million dollars. And they were ticked off about that, even though they made $246 million a piece. So if we understand that reality, this is what Swagoo is talking about, Doggy and Molly, as black men. We're sitting up there and we're saying, yo, it's wrong. It ain't right. He's been blackballed unfairly. This is some BS. It's nonsense. And then you had the former president hijacking it, trying to make it into a political issue for his own gain. But in the end, it didn't escape the reality. The truth that was coming down the pike is that if he didn't show up to that workout, it was a wrap.
Yep.
And that's what happened.
We have to leave it there.
Just
At
like
the
I
end of the
told
day,
y'all,
the
it was
Jets
gonna
have
happen.
a depth chart issue.
Let's see if
he
they
said,
bring
I'd
him
love
in."
to be a part of the practice squad, and he'd still like to play.
Colin
and it is what it is.
Kaepernick
And the
should've-
full letter is online.
Let Doggy showed up. He should have been brought into the organization.
Go ahead, Doggy.
And
Go
then we
real quick,
really have
Doggy.
to
Go
They've
ahead.
been telling me to wrap
Well,
forever.
the one thing that's interesting about Flores, to be fair, he benched twice Tua. McDaniels comes in. He's got Tua playing like Marino.
Yep.
Be fair. Flores
That
did
is
an
fair.
atrocious job. Atrocious job with the
but
Dolphin
I don't
offense.
think it was about. I wasn't referencing the job he
Well,
did. I'm talking about the.
No, he got blackballed. I'll buy that.
We want to
But
talk
you know
about
what?
the job. We want to talk about the
McDaniel's
job.
better
We
than
got
he
it.
is.
Yeah.